So the apartment is 678 square feet. Living in San Francisco, I could barely afford it. So it's 2 people, me and a roommate right now. I knew when I moved in, I wanted to have like a high quality cinema experience. And so I found this projector online, and it's like exactly the right size. So I can pull this down, and then there's a projector up on the wall over there. I knew that I wanted to be able to project and have a clear line of sight there, but at the same time I wanted to have some more intimacy over the dining room table when I was hosting dinners. And so I came up with this light, and so it comes down all the way, and then you can think of this as like poker mode, but I like to think of it like, you know, war room mode. Rarely do I have it all the way down. Usually I have it like up here, and this is one of these things where I had always expected to either have it like this or to have it all the way up. But then once it was made, it was like, oh, well, actually it's super kind of fun and whimsical to just leave it at this angle. And so when this thing comes all the way up, the path to the projector is completely clear. So the pulley system isn't too complicated. I mean, the one interesting thing is that the rope is coming at an angle this way, and then it goes down at an angle that way. So there's 2 pulleys that kind of redirect the rope from this angle to straight vertical and then down to that angle. I don't know, I've come to appreciate that I'm kind of particular about things, and so I may be willing to go out of my way to make something happen that other people would be content with moving into the apartment as it is. And I think it's fine. Different people have different preferences, and it's one of these things where it's like, I like this gesture. I know it usually means money, but I'd like this as like, it's like just like the fine details of like, that light is like exactly the right level of warmth. So when I moved in, there was a ladder that was going up to the loft. And so it was a metal ladder, and it was pretty steep. It was maybe like this, and you had to use handrails on either side. And I very quickly realized that like I wanted to be able to walk upstairs with my laundry in my hands. So I had this idea of putting a staircase in here. So my dad's a carpenter, and he came out and spent 3 weeks with me when I first moved in. And we basically just in the parking lot cut the wood, shaped it and stuff like that. So now, you know, I can walk up, and it just feels very natural. It's slightly steeper than a normal staircase, but especially with the handrail, it feels pretty natural. So then another thing when I moved in was there was these really ugly fluorescent tube lights, you know, a big 3-foot tube light here, and then the socket was there. This now covers an outlet, and then these panels are LEDs, backlighting canvases. So this is actually the same thing in here. Got some like linen fabric, and then I stretched it like a painter's canvas or something. You know, from the outside it has that low profile of a fluorescent tube light, but the light is much softer, and I don't know, I like the texture a lot more. And so on the back it's just these LEDs, and then they're kind of facing the wall, so you don't actually see the LEDs from the outside. And so I really like that aesthetic and use that both here and there. The single most difficult project was this door. So it's a hollow frame door with sound insulation panels on the front side, and then I'd put wood here. So there's a hollow frame door in the middle. So when you come inside, it feels like a space, a closed space. It was difficult to install because I'd put this metal beam up here with the rollers in it, and then I had to, in one single sweep, like put the door up and then roll it in. But at that point, because of the wood and the panels, it was kind of heavy. So I had a ladder and was just like kind of slid it over, but it took a few tries. So yes, this is my bedroom. This desk, so I bought the frame online, and then I constructed the desk using the joining and planing and kind of these woodworking techniques. It was one of those things that like, if I could have bought exactly what I wanted, I would have bought it, but it just didn't exist, which was a really thick slab of wood at the particular dimensions of this standing desk, just small enough to fit the frame. It was fun. I don't think I would do it again, but I'm glad that I did it. And so then this thing, so this goes up. I'm like very particular about my workspace, and so this is the exact same setup that I've had at work for a number of years. I'm a programmer, and so I spend almost all of my time in front of a keyboard, and I kind of feared becoming one of these people, but I am now one of these people who cannot work without exactly the right setup. So yeah, I mean, I just kind of indulge it. And I think if I had a bigger space, I would have like a dedicated kind of work and studio space. I've kind of lived with both a bedroom and a desk in the same room since college. So again, this is one of those lights. And then I made this headboard. You can see the wall here isn't even. And so this headboard kind of evens out that and then adds some sound insulation and things like that.
Somehow hotels use the same sort of
technique. I kind of like the kind of boutique hotel feel. I was going for that. This is where I keep tools and just random stuff. It's a pretty shallow closet, but the curtains, it just feels very clean to me. So just more stuff here. I tend to wear a lot of similar clothes. I like efficiency in these sorts of things. I just put, these bins like socks and underwear and stuff. And then,
hanging plants everywhere.
Yeah, hanging plants everywhere. The pothos is super easy to grow. The one downstairs is called Henry, and I think we're on to Henry the 12th in terms of sharing it with friends and things like that. So we're on the north side of the building here. I was a little bit bummed when I realized that there wasn't too much direct light. I really like the feeling of natural light and then that brightness, and so I wanted to get more light into the unit. And I had seen this piece of art where there were these circular, I think, convex mirrors, like the ones that you'll see like near parking garage exits where they're curved. And it was basically like a bunch of those attached together to form a shape. And I really liked that. And so I got all of these cheap acrylic plastic mirrors and then kind of arranged them in a pattern where they're denser at the top and then they kind of organically become less dense, like drops of water or something like that. So yeah, it was a little precarious to mount those up there. I had a very large ladder, but I think the effect is good. This is really cool effect where when the sun is at the right angle, the light will kind of bounce down, and then on the walls, you'll kind of have this moving. It almost feels like you're underwater, like that kind of like aquatic feel. So then, this is the second bedroom. Similar thing with the closet. And then this is the same style headboard. And then I think again with the plants in the windows and stuff. And this light, this was an early project of mine where I was like, I want soft, warm yellow light, and I don't know how to get it. And then I saw online this idea of you take a balloon and then you wrap paper mache around it and then string and then glue and cornstarch. You can let it dry and then pop the balloon and take it out. And so I extended that to do the 3 orbs. It's like an upside down snowman, or I just really like the warmth. The kitchen. And I had used these boxes for food storage because food is messy and I didn't want to have that visible. So I basically had a bunch of these things down here as my food. And then I would be like, take it out, put it up here, open the lid, take out the food, put on the lid. And then I was like, that's why people invented drawers. And so I got this and installed it and cut this to size with these kind of rounded corners. And then these were one of my first purchases. It's just like magnetic spice racks. And it's a little bit inconvenient because the labels are on the other side. Another philosophy I have is around texture of 3D space. When I first moved in, the space just felt very boxy. And so being able to hang things, but not in an intrusive way, it just gives this texture to the space where it helps it feel less clinical, less like a hospital or something. I really like kind of vertical storage for knives, and then there's more vertical storage here. And when I wash these things, I don't have a dishwasher, so dishwashing, I'm just here, and then I just put the dishes right there, and it's super quick. I was also particularly proud of this arrangement of the vegetable thing, because what I tried to do is I tried to take things that are visually interesting and make those things visible, as opposed to having them hidden away. So I think like these cups I really like, these bowls, and then the wine glasses and plates and stuff. I actually think I would rather have them visible than in a cupboard, because it's just easier to get them that way. I've always been into lights. I took a neon light class. You have to use this tube to blow into the glass when you bend at sharp corners. So you're kind of like this. And then you heat up the glass. It is insanely difficult. It is so hard. But I was happy with the class because I made this thing. It's a starfish. And then some other projects I'm working on. I want to create lights in the shape of cities. So I'm working on like laser cutting, and then so like it's something like this, and then having an LED backlit, and so that's
streets on there.
Yeah, yes. I think the challenge is I have to have a certain production quality, which my kind of hacky jigsaw approach doesn't really support right now. So I'm looking into learning kind of CAM modeling. Tie that off. The red cord that you see there is the power cord. What that's doing is that goes up, and then it travels along that pipe up there. And then it wraps all the way around here, and then down and around, and then hooks up back into this switch. And so the nice thing is that electrical outlet is wired to the middle of these 3 switches. So I can control it with this light. And then the overhead bistro lights over there are controlled with this final switch. Along with the screen, I knew that I wanted this round set. I was like, well, how do I make this work? The speakers needed to be here and here, and then this is kind of the central one. But then the back speakers are here. This cord sneaks up that pipe and then running the length of the room. This is actually not a sprinkler pipe like the other ones are. This is a PVC pipe spray painted black. So it's kind of like hiding it in plain sight. And so the cords for the speakers run through that pipe, and then they come down here for this one, and then snakes all the way around for this one. And I just really didn't want the cords to be prominent. And so one day I got a projector, and I put the projector here. And then I projected the outline of California onto that wall. And then I just got a ladder and stapled along the outline of it. And there's 2 different channels or whatever, so there's exactly 2 cords to play around with. Similarly here with the Transamerica Pyramid. So this shelf I made, I really like the experience of kind of paging through old National Geographics with no real aim. And so I built this bookshelf exactly the right depth and height for National Geographics. This chalkboard, it's actually hiding behind it, this like electrical thingy. It's not a real chalkboard, it's basically like a piece of wood and then with chalkboard paint over it. So this is a tablet, and I wrote a little application. Right now what it does is it goes to Wikiquote, and then it scrapes the current quote every day, and then it will, once it scrapes the quote, change to that quote, and then you can swipe back through all of these quotes. One thing is a scraper, but then also the quotes are different lengths, and so I wanted to create something that was able to render the quote in full screen by adjusting the font size to take up as much vertical space as possible. And so I wrote a little tool. I just like this idea of, I'm coming down the stairs, and then some thought, some warm thought kind of greets me in the morning. So bathroom, pretty simple, not too much exciting back here, but I'm very particular about my roommate. I'm living with a coworker right now. And so it's very high trust, and it's definitely a small space, and like people need to be considerate. And then I have these extra chairs here too. So like if I'm hosting a bigger party, I'll bring out these chairs. I mean, the cool thing about it is you can kind of like, insert a leaf in the middle, and so it expands, and it's like, it can hold like 10 people pretty easily. I've hosted dinner parties with like up to 24 people. There's chairs just all over the room, and it just, it's a very flexible space in that regard. So yeah.
Do you think more people should do this kind of thing? I mean, that's beautiful and really kind of cool, but you don't see that often.
Yeah, I think it's one of these things where it's the intersection of caring enough and having the skills and free time. I find it very rewarding, and I think it's one of these things where the default is to consume. And I don't think society pushes people in the direction of creating. I think certainly the last 10 years we've had more of this with like Etsy and like even YouTube to some extent, which with people creating things or to learn from lots of different people. Yeah. So this actually, it sort of works here, but the problem is when you're sitting on the couch, it blocks your view of the screen here. So I think it's hard for me to say something normative, but my sense is that more people would find more joy in life if they spend more time creating things. I love satellite imagery. I used to work on a team. We built tools to analyze satellite imagery. Once you get into this feedback loop of it's like, I want this thing, I can make this thing, then it's like you start seeing opportunity everywhere, and you're like, well, I want that thing, and I can make that thing too, and like your just ambitions grow, and there's this kind of constant sense of personal growth, and I think flow state. Wait, why is the projection not working? Oh, interesting. One of the reasons I love software engineering is because it's the same type of experience in my brain as the experience of working on the house. It's just that like, rather than this physical space that I occupy, it's this mental space of all of these processes and how they interrelate. This data set lets you see trends in nighttime lights over time. And so where it's red means that the lights have been getting brighter since 1990. And where it's blue, it means the lights have been getting dimmer. There's this feeling that I get when I'm in the midst of the creative process, this feeling of absorption in my work, just the experience of flow and challenge. I love the experience of having some sort of goal and the challenge and my skill set arrive at this kind of nice equilibrium. Oh, okay, here we go. This kind of looks cool with a laser pointer. I don't do this that often, but I've imagined like building some sort of thing that will put lights up here in sync with classical music, and then just having it be like an ambient a light show. So, yeah. So.